Have you ever thought about how certain figures from history, I mean, long after they were active, they just keep sparking these really intense debates?
Absolutely. Their stories somehow keep resonating, shaping how we talk about justice and resistance even now.
Exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive into one such figure, Assata Shakur. Now, that's a name many people recognize, maybe linking her to Tupac Shakur.
Right? Often mistakenly as his aunt.
Yeah, she was actually his godmother.
Yeah.
But her influence on him, it was incredibly deep. So our mission today, using the sources we have, is to really unpack Assata Shakur's pretty extraordinary life.
Hmm.
We'll look at her journey, from being a young activist, then through her imprisonment, that really dramatic escape, and then decades in exile.
We want to pull out the key insights, give you a solid understanding of, well, one of the most significant and definitely polarizing figures in Black liberation movements.
For sure. Her story touches on so much activism, justice, resistance, the very limits of political dissent in America. It's complex.
And to really get it, you have to look at it from multiple angles.
Right.
We need to think critically, about the history, the different stories told about her.
Yeah, encourage thinking about why it all still matters today.
Exactly.
So whether you're kind of catching up on this piece of history or maybe you're curious about where some contemporary social justice ideas come from, this dive should give you crucial context. Without being overwhelming, hopefully.
Let's try.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. Assata Shakur, born Joanne Deborah Byron, July 16th, 1947, New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Her childhood, it was marked by this really stark contrast. Part of it in urban Queens, the other part in, well, deeply segregated Wilmington, North Carolina.
That dual experience is pretty key, right?
Yeah.
It gave her this firsthand, comprehensive understanding of systemic racism. Not just seeing it, but feeling its roots.
Totally. She understood how pervasive it was early on.
And what's fascinating here is the influence of her aunt, Evelyn A. Williams.
Ah.
She wasn't just family. She was a civil rights lawyer, an activist. She really opened young Joanne's eyes to literature, philosophy, progressive ideas. It was a household focused on education.
So that intellectual and political awakening was really fostered there.
Definitely. And you combine that with the firsthand experiences of discrimination North and South.
Yeah.
It really built this deep sense of social justice in her.
And you have to place that personal experience in the wider context, too, the time she was coming of age.
Absolutely. The civil rights movement heating up, Malcolm X's assassination, the rise of Black power.
Yeah, huge shifts happening. And for her, racism wasn't just an American problem. She saw it as part of this worldwide system of oppression, as she put it.
Which framed her view that it needed a revolutionary response, not just reform.
Right. Now, about that Tupac connection, let's just clear that up. Godmother, not aunt.
Correct. Through her close friendship with his mother, P0lice Shakur.
Who was also a Black Panther activist, so a very political connection.
Indeed. And even with Assata in exile later, her influence on Tupac was significant. Passed down, through stories, letters, the whole revolutionary mindset she shared with P0lice.
You can hear it in his work, right? He mentioned her.
Oh, frequently. In music, interviews, he credited her with shaping his understanding of the struggle. There's even that spoken word piece by Assata herself in his song White Man's World.
Which is pretty direct.
Very.
And that's what's so interesting here. It's more than just family ties. It's like this conduit.
A generational transmission, of revolutionary thought from the Black Power era straight into hip-hop culture.
Her ideas finding a whole new audience, a new generation through him, powerful stuff.
Definitely.
So let's track back to her direct involvement. Late 60s, early 70s, she joins the Black Panther Party in New York.
Drawn by their ideology, but also, crucially, their community programs.
That 10-point program was pretty comprehensive. Freedom, jobs, housing, education, ending police brutality. It mapped her vision.
And she was active within the party, not just a member on paper. She worked on those community initiatives.
Like the breakfast programs.
Exactly. Breakfast for kids, health clinics, educational projects, all aimed at uplifting the community and building political awareness. She also wrote for the party paper, taught political education classes.
What kind of things did they teach?
Marxist-Leninist ideology. Basically frameworks for understanding class struggle and revolution and connecting the U.S. struggle to, third world liberation movements globally.
Got it. But this was happening under a microscope, right?
Absolutely. This period, it's critical to remember, was marked by intense government surveillance, specifically the FBI's COINTELPRO program.
Which targeted groups like the Panthers.
Precisely. Infiltration, harassment, arrests, sometimes violence. It created this this atmosphere of paranoia and siege, as the sources put it, a really difficult environment to operate in.
So with the BPP facing all that pressure, internal and external, it makes sense that some members might look for different paths.
Right. And Shakur became associated with the Black Liberation Army, the BLA.
Which was seen as, what, an underground wing?
Kind of. An underground arm of the Black Liberation Movement emerging in the early 70s. They saw themselves differently.
How so?
Well, the BLA ideology basically was that they were engaged in a war against an illegitimate government, one that systematically oppressed black people.
So their actions reflected that mindset.
According to our sources, yes. Activities like bank robberies to fund operations and targeting police officers who they viewed as agents of oppression.
So for them, these weren't just crimes.
They saw them as necessary responses to what they perceived as state-sponsored violence against black communities. That's the perspective outlined.
It paints a picture of living underground, constant danger.
Perpetual vigilance, assumed identities, an enormous personal cost, constantly looking over your shoulder.
Which leads us to the incident that really changed everything. May 2nd, 1973, the New Jersey Turnpike.
A traffic stop. She was with Assata Shakur and Sundiata Acoli. State troopers James Harper and Werner Forrester pulled them over.
And it escalated fast.
Deadly fast. A shootout erupted. Assata Shakur was killed. Trooper Forrester was also killed.
But the story of how it happened, that's where things get really contested based on our sources.
Extremely contested.
Yeah.
You have two starkly different narratives. The official police account says the car's occupants opened fire without provocation.
Okay, that's one side.
But Shakur and her supporters have always consistently challenged this. They argued the troopers initiated the violence.
And there was physical evidence brought up.
Crucially, yes. Medical testimony suggested her own gunshot wounds to her arms would have made it impossible for her to fire a weapon.
Wow, so this incident immediately became more than just a tragic shootout.
Oh yeah, it became a flashpoint. Debates about police violence, racial profiling, the treatment of black activists, it all kind of exploded around this case.
Her trial then must have been intense. It became a cause célèbre, right?
Absolutely. Drew massive attention nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
Civil rights groups, human rights organizations, supporters of political prisoners, everyone was watching. The trial itself ran from 73 to 77.
And the prosecution's angle.
They painted her as a cold-blooded cop killer and terrorist. That was the narrative they pushed.
But the defense pushed back hard.
Vigorously. They pointed to inconsistencies in witness testimony, questioned how the physical evidence was handled, and as we mentioned, they leaned heavily on that medical evidence contradicting the state's version of her firing a weapon.
And Shakur herself.
Throughout it all, she maintained her innocence. And importantly, she refused to repudiate her political beliefs. She didn't back down from her activism.
What was the final outcome?
She was convicted in 1977, first-degree murder, sentenced to life plus 30 years.
Based mainly on...
Largely on the surviving trooper Harper's testimony, plus some ballistics evidence. But for her supporters, this wasn't justice. They saw it as political persecution. Plain and simple. An attempt to silence her. And her time in prison. She didn't just fade away.
No, she continued her political work from inside, writing, corresponding with activists.
Even under harsh conditions. Reports of solitary confinement, which supporters called psychological torture.
But she kept her commitment, kept inspiring people, and international human rights groups started taking notice too, raising the profile of her case globally.
Which sets the stage for the next really dramatic chapter.
Right. November 2nd, 1979. The escape.
A carefully planned operation. It stunned everyone. BLA members, including her brother P0lice Shakur, basically walked into the prison visiting area armed, subdued guards, and walked her out.
And the sources mentioned it was done without violence.
Correct. The escape itself was reportedly nonviolent, but it instantly transformed her status again.
From prisoner to...
international fugitive.
And an even bigger symbol of resistance for many. She then spent 5 years underground, back in the U.S.
Relying on a network of supporters.
A clandestine network, yes. And during this time, she also gave birth to her daughter, Kakuya. Imagine that having a child while living as a fugitive. The personal complexity is immense. Then, 1984, she surfaces again.
In Cuba, where Fidel Castro granted her political asylum.
Why Cuba? What was their reasoning?
Well, it aligned with Cuba's long-standing foreign policy, supporting anti-imperialist movements and opposing what they saw as U.S. racial oppression.
So they viewed her as a political refugee.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
a victim of American political persecution, not a common criminal. And she's lived in Havana ever since, still active, writing, speaking.
But her presence there is still a sore spot between the U.S. and Cuba.
Definitely. An ongoing diplomatic tension, a
Yeah.
major point of contention for decades.
She also published her autobiography from Cuba, right? The Assata.
In 1987, a really powerful book. It's her personal account,
Mm-hmm.
life, activism, the legal battles, but it's also very much a political manifesto.
Laying out her beliefs, her side of the story.
Exactly. And beyond the book, her other writings, essays, poems, speeches they keep circulating. They address resistance, liberation, feminism, international solidarity.
Themes that still resonate today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see her influence in contemporary movements like Black Lives Matter. Activists reference her work, her example.
Why do you think that is? What connects?
Her sharp critique of the criminal justice system, her analysis of state power, they see it as incredibly relevant to today's struggles.
And her ideas have impacted academia, too.
Oh, for sure. Her theoretical frameworks, especially on the intersection of race, class, and gender, are discussed in Black studies, women's studies, critical race theory. Her analysis has enduring academic weight.
But the controversy hasn't faded, far from it. 2013 brought another major development,
Right. The FBI added her to its most wanted terrorists list.
making her the first woman ever given that designation, which must have reignited everything.
Completely. A fierce debate kicked off again.
Yeah.
Supporters were outraged, arguing it was inappropriate for someone they considered a political prisoner. They saw it as purely political.
While law enforcement's view was,
They emphasized the serious nature of her crimes, the murder conviction as the justification. It just highlights these deep, ongoing disagreements about how to characterize political violence and resistance movements.
and internationally.
Many human rights groups still characterize her as a political prisoner. And Cuba's refusal to extradite her, well, that underscores these fundamentally different ideas about justice and asylum between the two nations.
So wrapping this up, Assata Shakur, clearly a complex and controversial figure. No easy labels fit.
Not at all. You have the view of her as a courageous freedom fighter, someone who sacrificed everything to fight injustice.
And the opposing view, a criminal who murdered a police officer and escaped justice. Two very stark perspectives.
And her relevance today, it really speaks to these ongoing battles over racial justice, police accountability, the limits of dissent.
Plus, that influence on Tupac and through him, hip-hop, means her ideas continue to reach new people.
Keeping the conversation alive for new generations.
Her life just forces you to grapple with these huge questions, doesn't it? About justice, resistance, how society should respond to systemic oppression. Questions we're still asking.
Exactly. Her story is a potent reminder that the fight for justice often demands immense personal sacrifice. And that line, the one between resistance and criminality, it's still fiercely contested ground in the struggle for basic human dignity and freedom. As the U.S. keeps wrestling with racial justice, police violence, inequality, Assata Shakur's life, her words, they remain incredibly relevant. They help us understand the roots of today's conflicts and maybe the ongoing need for truly transformative ways to achieve genuine equality. It really makes you think. What does her legacy mean for how you view the boundaries of dissent and justice today?